Brother lads, welcome back to the Kosi Arsenal podcast. My name is Kosi. We'll come back to a brand new video. Arsenal's next big signing could be Alexander Isak, and have real big reasons to believe this. I have enough data from Fabrizio, from The Athletic, to believe that Arsenal are going to do something big in this summer, and that something big is going to be on the forward line, on a number 9, and that number 9 is Alexander Isak. I'm going to explain why Isak could come in, but also Arsenal go and get a player like Benjamin Sesko. I think there's now a big possibility that we will see two forwards that are not wingers come in into this Mikel Arteta system, especially with Gabriel Jesus injured for a longer period of time, but also the fact that Arsenal were always willing, even right from the summer, we were willing to let go of Gabriel Jesus. So Alexander Isak is such a big position for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta likes him very much. We tried to sign him, and David Ornstein has put it very clearly that they tried to get him before. They're not going to fail to try again in the summer. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. It's a complicated deal, but I think it's a long time ever since Arsenal acted serious, and it's about time we see the seriousness come out again once again. So let's start off with why I think Alexander Isak is Arsenal's next big signing. So in January, Arsenal wanted to sign Matheus Cunha, who was made available alongside Oli Watkins. Both of them were made available, but today Fabrizio Romano has just revealed that Arsenal never wanted to do Oli Watkins or never wanted to do Matheus Cunha. They were seen as market opportunities, and they're players that Arsenal have looked at and followed, but they never had the intention of signing these players in January. The reason being, they looked at those deals as a hindrance to a big deal for a striker, for the big deal that they're trying to do for a striker. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask you this. Matheus Cunha could have cost us around 60 million. Oli Watkins could have cost us around 60 million. If Arsenal are really keeping the powder dry for a big striker that Fabrizio is saying they're going to sign in the summer, then it's not going to be Benjamin Sesko. It's not Benjamin Sesko, because Sesko is not a bigger signing than Oli Watkins. Now, obviously, it makes more sense for the project at Arsenal. Sesko has more time on his, on his career belt, around 9 years or 10 years. He's gonna be there, but there is no guarantee that he's even going to be at Arsenal for all that time. Obviously, his resale value would be higher as well, but he's not a guaranteed, success in the Premier League like Watkins or Matheus Cunha. So when Arsenal say we are keeping the powder dry, we are keeping our money for something big in the summer, they mean we are keeping our money for a player that the manager has approved, for a player that we have followed for quite some time, for a player that is going to be impactful but expensive, and for a player that we think is worth that status of a big signing. And that, for me, of all the players we're looking at, is Alexander Isak. Now, I've looked at all the names that we have been linked with. There is one that also knocks on the door when we say a big forward, a big signing as a forward, and that is Lautaro Martinez. But I think Lautaro Martinez's links are not realistic enough for me to get all excited about them like Alexander Isak. Remember last summer, Arsenal were interested in Alexander Isak, but there was a lot. We had PSR issues on our own. Newcastle, of course, were braggadocious about their players, and they were never considering any moves. But this summer, with Newcastle, Aston Villa, and all these clubs having to deal with financial fair play and PSR, we might see big departures at Newcastle. We did see big departures at Aston Villa last summer. Douglas Luiz all of a sudden goes to Juventus for pennies, and we were all asking ourselves a question: why? What's going on? So Alexander Isak will not be available in the summer, but I think it's going to be a bit of bullying. It's going to be a bit of Arsenal doing the unthinkable and Newcastle losing their ability to refuse whatever amount of offer we shall put in, right? But I think as we go into the summer, the big idea is, can we get Alexander Isak as part of this team? If you have Saliba at the back, you have Rice in midfield. Could you get a player like Alexander Isak? That is a balanced team. The way you say Liverpool, they've got Salah up front. They've got Virgil van Dijk and at the back. They've got Alisson in goal, and then in that midfield, they don't have quite a big name, but those three key pillars in that team, as such, are so important. So I think that's what Arsenal want to do. Go and get a player like Alexander Isak. Of course, you have Odegaard in midfield, but I think Rice stands out in terms of the price, in terms of showing ambition. And then at the back, you have William Saliba. So I think Alexander Isak's move to Arsenal is going to be one that's going to be very, very interesting to watch. If you've not followed this channel for quite some time, me, myself, and Abu, we've done a lot of content on Alexander Isak, around him and the deal. But I'll be happy to run back the basics and the statistics for you about this deal. Alexander Isak already made it very clear to Newcastle that if you don't get into the UEFA Champions League, if we don't get into UEFA Champions positions, I would love to join a club that is going to give me UCL football. And that's why I said, if you're Arsenal, you've got to keep praying, right? You've got to pray that Man City don't lose third. You've got to pray that Arsenal don't drop out of second or first, and Liverpool too. So there is basically one spot, right, or two spots these days for UEFA Champions League. If Newcastle do not finish in fourth or fifth, right, and they don't win the FA Cup, is it the FA Cup that takes you to? No, the FA Cup doesn't take you to the Champions League. It doesn't. So if they don't finish fourth or fifth, right, and they're out of UCL, Alexander Isak will want to move on. And that's what I feel. That's why I feel like Arsenal are trying to do all these other smaller deals and then keep the powder dry for such a big deal. I mean, Martin Zubimendi, maybe 60 million. Because Nico Williams, around 40 million. That's 100 million there for the Spanish duo. Then you've got, I think we will do a goalkeeper, around 20 million. That's 120 million, right? And then you do Alexander Isak for 100 million. So that's around 220 million. That is almost the same amount of money, or even less, when you compared to what we spent on Rice, Havertz, and Timber. Because Havertz was 75, Rice was 105, right? That's 180. And then you have Gilles Timber, who was around 40. That's 100, and that's 220, right? So we know that Arsenal have spent that amount of money before. And after that summer, where we signed Havertz, Timber, and Rice, the next 2 or 3 transfer windows have been basically dry. We've not done serious business. So it looks like we are going to come back into the market to do serious business. And this time, it's going to be very, very interesting. So Alexander Isak is the next big signing at Arsenal. He's the next big signing. After Fabrizio saying that they didn't want to do Matheus Cunha, they never had plans to do Matheus Cunha because they're waiting for something big. You don't fail to sign Matheus Cunha because you're waiting for Šeško. No way. There is no way, unless we are the most incompetent, lousy club in the world, which we are not. You don't wait for Šeško by turning down Matheus Cunha, because Cunha has scored almost the same number of goals as Šeško, and he's scored them in the Premier League with struggling club Wolves, right? If we wanted a quick fix, if we wanted a player that was going to come in, establish himself quickly, give you real impact in the Premier League, and then he's got a long time left on his career belt, that would have been Matheus Cunha, right? The fact that we didn't go for Cunha, the fact that Arsenal said, well, Cunha, 60 million at 25, no, we will not do the deal, right? And Šeško is 21, 22, and it's going to cost 70 million. I think Arsenal are waiting for that, Isak deal. Now, can we get Isak? For me, I've seen deals happen. Like, who thought that Kylian Mbappe was going to be poached away from PSG? I think it's about your ability and your persuasion to turn the player's head. If we can turn his head away from Newcastle, if we can promise him heaven and earth, I think we can get him. And I also think that Newcastle will not be able to turn down 110 million. If you give them 110 million, there's no way they turn that down. There is no way in heaven, hell, or earth, or on another planet they're turning down that, because that is like 50 million in terms of profit for them. 50 million, even more in terms of profit. They're not going to turn down that. I think they will get that money, and they'll go and get Shesko, or they'll go and get Gyökeres. I won't be surprised, right? But Alexander Isak, keep your eyes open. David Ornstein himself has said, I don't want to annoy Newcastle fans, but Arsenal and Newcastle talk is not going to go away, which means they want him, right? Fabrizio has just said as well that on top of the list for Arsenal strikers is Alexander Isak. And that's why they didn't want to sign anyone. They want to see, can we get Isak first? If they can't get Isak first, I think Isak is going to be a bit like Declan Rice. That kind of signing that Mikel Arteta wants, and he doesn't want anyone else. You either give me Isak or you give me Isak. That's the same thing that the way it was with Rice. There was Caicedo. We could have done Caicedo at 80 million or 90 million, but he said no. I want Declan Rice. It's as simple as that. So for me, I don't see Shesko as the big signing that we're gonna do, but I won't be surprised if Arsenal do both Shesko and Alexander Isak, because that forward line is quirky, really, really quirky. You've got to get reinforcements in terms of real starters, and then you've got to get players that can be squad players. I think Shesko would be a very good squad player at around 60 million, and then Isak would come in as a starter to overthrow Kai Havertz. So if we are looking for the next big signing at Arsenal, I think that is gonna be Alexander Isak. I'm buzzing first and foremost, but I'm also very, very confident that Arsenal will try to get this deal done until it fails.